I sincerely believe that you'd be honoring John Henry Clarke to listen to his presentation because what I'm presenting is an expansion of his great teachings. The great scholar and master historian John Henry Clarke famously stated that history tells a people where they have been, what they have been, where they are, and what they must do next. He viewed history as a compass and a clock guiding a people in understanding their past, present, and future. Clarke believed history acts as a compass, helping a people understand their place on the map of human geography. It provides a sense of direction and purpose by revealing their past and present circumstances. What he said is that people need to know their true history in order to properly orientate themselves about what is required to do next to move forward as a people. The past highlights what a people needs to do next. For example, if you woke up in a desert and looked around but didn't know which direction you came from, you wouldn't know which way to proceed. If you knew where you came from or knew the direction you were traveling in, you could then choose to either continue forward or to travel back where you came from. But without that past knowledge, you would have no idea which direction to travel. The past orientates us. History reveals not only the past and present, but also the path forward. History is like a compass that people need to move forward. Without it, they become stifled and lost. Once you fully understand this fact, the severity of our predicament becomes clear. You see, unlike at the conclusion of the Jewish Holocaust, when the U.S. and the UN contributed massive financial support to rebuild the lives of the Jews, which included building schools that taught them a history, although a false and or a greatly exaggerated one, it was a history that provided them with a direction to travel forward. However, there was no moral obligation to do the same for we Africans. Although the African Holocaust lasted hundreds of years longer, resulted in millions of more deaths, and more greatly decimated the African culture. When slavery was abolished, those white nations that benefit themselves immensely through their brutal exploitation and enslavement of Africans did not do the same for us. After slavery was abolished, the history taught to we Africans have been so neglected that we're not able to orientate ourselves based upon it. Because of this fact, most Africans throughout the Americas don't have a proper context of our history to move forward based upon. And when I say throughout the Americas, this includes Black people throughout the Caribbean. Yes, the Caribbean is geographically part of the Americas, specifically within the region known as the West Indies. I've literally met Haitians who didn't know that their ancestors came from Africa. I've met Bahamians who didn't know that their ancestors were enslaved. I've met African Americans who didn't know that their last names originated from the plantations that their enslaved ancestors belonged to. I've met countless numbers of African Americans who are totally clueless of the biological kinship shared between themselves and the Africans born in the Caribbean. They don't know that family members were taken from slave ships and dropped off at different ports. They don't know that while their enslaved ancestors were picking cotton in the U.S., that they had enslaved relatives working on sugarcane plantations in the Caribbean. Most don't know these facts because the history we've been taught has been totally neglected. Case, point, and proof. It's now been more than 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were brought in chains to America. And yet most African Americans today still don't know Why Europeans traveled all the way to Africa to get their slaves rather than enslaving the Native Americans that were already here. Certainly, it would have been more cost effective to enslave Native Americans rather than hiring slave ships and their crews to travel thousands of miles round trip to Africa. The reason why they enslaved Africans is not because the Native Americans refused to work or knew the landscape too well. Those are both false narratives created by white propagandists to keep us from learning the true history of why they enslaved Africans. The true reason is that the slaves needed by the white invaders, the white enslavers, needed stronger immune systems to survive the many diseases carried by Europeans. The Europeans brought large numbers of diseases to America. Those diseases caused the death of millions of Native Americans. These diseases included syphilis, gonorrhea, smallpox, influenza, pneumonia, measles, scarlet fever, chickenpox, etc., etc. Many of the European diseases were communicable by air and touch, thus making it easy for them to spread rapidly. It is estimated that millions of Native Americans, not just on the mainland of America, but throughout the Caribbean, died due to diseases carried by Europeans. They enslaved Africans because Africans had the strongest immune system that could better endure the many diseases carried by Europeans. This is why they enslaved Africans. It's not some crazy biblical prophecy. And yes, in case you didn't know, the sexual transmitted disease of syphilis and gonorrhea, they originate in Europe. During ancient times, each European country blamed those diseases on the other neighboring country. Italy, Germany, and the United Kingdom blamed syphilis. They call syphilis the French disease. The French named them the Neapolitan disease. The Russians assigned it the Polish disease. The Polish call it the German disease. The Danish call it the Portuguese disease, etc., etc. But what is known as the disease of syphilis and gonorrhea originated in Europe. I digress. Most Africans throughout the Americas also don't know anything about the historical greatness from which we came from. This is because we've been miseducated to believe that we came from nothing. And we're therefore made to believe that the white society's enslavement of our ancestors benefited us. We were given a false version of history that is designed to make us feel grateful toward the white society for having brutally enslaved our ancestors. But here's the truth. Long before the Europeans invaded Africa, it was Africans that civilized Europe. All of Greece's first scholars were educated by Africans. The world's oldest university, library, manuscript, encyclopedia, human prosthetic, mathematical tool, medical journal, and the world's oldest standing kingdom are all located in Africa. The world's largest wall ever built is not the Great Wall of China, it's actually the Great Wall of Benin. It was 4 times larger than the Great Wall of China, and it is recognized by the Guinness World Record as being the largest man-made structure built before the modern age. Africans are also the first to build in stone and the first to smelt metal. Africans introduced science, writing, mathematics, and philosophy to the world. Africans invented the wheel, paper, the calendar, the concept of 24 hours in a day, the 365-day calendar, the clock, leap year, organized labor, surgical instrument, cosmetic, the plow, black ink, ink pen, shoes, high heels, condoms, hair wigs, hair dyes, hair extensions, makeup, hairbrush, keys, hair comb, mint, the chisel, toothpaste, door locks, doorknobs, shaving, writing, astronomy, the solar calendar, paved roads, and government. Africans introduced shaving, the use of toothpaste, perfume, fragrance, deodorants, and even introduced the daily bath to Europeans. This is our true history. And don't let them fool you. We are still a great people. Because the white society writes all of our narratives, they falsely marginalize our narratives to create a false perception of us that makes us appear that we are inherently inferior to Europeans. Doing so creates and sustains false assumptions within society, basically creates a false perception of reality that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social capital over the black population. But here's a historical fact that they've expunged from their whitewashed history books. After slavery was abolished in the year 1865, beginning from 1870 to 1940, African Americans filed 726 invention patents to the U.S. Patent Office. For a people to go almost directly from being enslaved, where they were denied an education, to then producing so much inventions in such a short time span is astounding. Furthermore, those numbers of patent applications submitted by African Americans more than doubled than those submitted by whites during the same time frame, even though African Americans only made up 3% of the population. This scenario of black people outpacing Caucasian continues well beyond 1940s. The hidden reality is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustices of white racism and slavery, most inventions that revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or were directly inspired by earlier inventions made by black people. Your perception is a white deception created by false narratives. Without black people, there would exist no motors, no automobiles, no airplanes, no helicopters. Without black people, we wouldn't even have skyscrapers. We only have skyscrapers because black people invented the elevator, the fire extinguisher, the fire escape ladder, air conditioning, and central heating, which are all essential in order for people to live or work within skyscrapers. Without black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't even have cameras or microphones on our cell phones. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope. There would be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aids, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home civilian security system, no home game cartridges, no steam engines, no traffic lights. Without black people, there would exist no refrigerators, no refrigerated trucks, therefore no ice cream trucks, no blood banks, no dry cleaning, no lawnmowers, no doorknobs, no 3D movies, etc., etc. It's by deliberate design that most people are unaware of these historical facts. These facts have been deliberately expunged from the public record and omitted from our whitewashed history books to create a false perception that most revolutionizing inventions came from the minds of Caucasians, while depicting black people as being the leeches of society that haven't invented much. Your perception is a white deception. This reality is also concealed by the fact that in order for a black inventor to get their inventions mass-produced, they have no other options than to go before white companies, is where the system is made up. These companies acquires the right to these inventions and then places white faces in front of the inventions. The Patent Office has also often been used to steal intellectual property rights from black inventors. The white society literally sits upon a throne of white exalting and black marginalizing lies. So they don't give us a true interpretation of our history, and the version of history they gives us is a marginalized one. It's one that's designed to condition us to believe that we are less than Caucasians. White social scientists describe the nefarious practice as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the black population that makes us adhere to the authority of the white dominant society. They condition us to believe that we are less than them in order to maintain their dominance over us. Your perception is a white deception. If you're a black person who don't research facts, but you're content to allow the white society to tell you what to believe, as long as you're listening to them, they're going to feed you lies that give them greater power and control over us. It's time to wake up to our reality. The white society sits upon a throne of lies. One love and peace.